In 2020, official government maps of Great Nicobar's Galathea Bay showed a coastline rich with coral reefs. By 2021, those same maps were mysteriously blank. The corals had simply vanished from the paperwork. Those corals are a Schedule I protected species, holding the exact same legal status as tigers. Acknowledging they exist makes it legally impossible to build a 72,000 crore rupee mega project directly on top of them. To understand the motive, look at where Great Nicobar sits. It is positioned right next to the Malacca Strait, one of the most vital shipping choke points on the planet. India wants to capture the immense volume of global trade passing through this corridor by building a massive international container transshipment terminal, ending its reliance on foreign logistics hubs. Alongside the commercial port, the plan includes a dual-use military airport and naval base. This gives the Indian Navy a permanent forward operating position to monitor and counter rival fleets in the Bay of Bengal. But securing this vantage point requires clearing immense physical hurdles. Rather than adjusting their geopolitical strategy to fit the island, planners opted to adjust the island's natural records to fit their strategy. The construction requires leveling 130 square kilometers of primary rainforest. That translates to the felling of nearly 1 million old-growth trees. These are tropical dipterocarp forests. This chart shows the massive volume of carbon stored inside their above-ground biomass. If 130 square kilometers are cleared, all that captured carbon is immediately released back into the atmosphere. The erasure of Galathea Bay's coral directly threatens the coastline that serves as a primary nesting ground for the endangered giant leatherback sea turtle. This land is also home to the Shompen, an isolated hunter-gatherer tribe designated as a particularly vulnerable tribal group. While they hold legal rights over this forest, their formal consent was allegedly bypassed in a rushed 20-day clearance process. These accelerated approvals have triggered fierce opposition. Lawmakers like Jairam Ramesh have formally challenged the legality of the environmental clearances and dismissal of indigenous rights. Replacing this ecosystem is biologically impossible. The project permanently dismantles an ancient carbon sink and overrides indigenous sovereignty, all to lay the concrete foundation for a port. The most immediate threat cannot be erased by paperwork. The island sits directly above a violent geological fault line. Great Nicobar sits on a subduction zone. The Indian plate constantly thrusts underneath the Burmese plate, building massive pressure. When that pressure snapped during the 2004 earthquake, the island's landmass violently shifted, causing its southern end to suddenly sink 3 meters. You can see the result at Indira Point, India's southernmost cape. This lighthouse, once high on a beach, now stands permanently submerged in the ocean. The resulting tsunami and sudden land drop wiped away miles of coastline, sweeping entire coastal townships and ecosystems out to sea. Building a multi-billion-dollar concrete transshipment port directly on top of a volatile tectonic boundary that just swallowed 3 meters of land requires an astounding level of engineering hubris. Planners are attempting to anchor heavy, rigid infrastructure into an island that is constantly fracturing and sinking into the ocean. The government continues to shield the project's foundational vulnerabilities from independent public scrutiny, classifying the environmental reports and clearance details under the broad justification of national security. Meanwhile, researchers have documented ongoing, active tectonic changes along the coastlines. The seismic tilt has forced coral beds upward on the western shore while drowning entire forests on the east. Bureaucrats can fast-track development permits. They can redraw boundaries, ignore tribal consent, and delete protected coral reefs from their topographical maps. But they cannot legislate away a subduction zone. Geopolitics may demand a strategic outpost in the Andaman Sea, but ignoring the physical and ecological limits of the Earth itself guarantees a collapse that no military strategy will be able to prevent.